Hi, I'm Chris Teutsch, Forage Extension Specialist at the University of Kentucky's Research and Education Center located in Princeton, Kentucky. I'd like to thank the Virginia Forage and Grassland Council for inviting me back to Virginia to visit with you all about hay as part of profitable cow-calf operations. In this afternoon's presentation, I'm going to talk about hay storage and feeding, reflections of a forage agronomist. This presentation will be broken up into 5 videos. So if you're interested in watching the next video in the series, just go back to the playlist and click on the next video. The first video is going to give you a little bit of background material and introduction material to kind of set the stage for talking about hay as part of profitable cow-calf operations. So in this series of videos, we're going to talk about a number of topics. The first will be a little bit of background material. Then we'll talk about long-term weather trends. We'll talk about approaches to feeding hay storage considerations, hay feeding considerations, and then we'll kind of wrap things up with a few final thoughts. In order to set the stage for hay feeding as part of profitable cow-calf operations, I think we need to take a look at cow-calf production cost. This is a survey of 170 farms that was conducted by the University of Minnesota. They do this survey every year. This was from 2023. And what I want you to notice when we look at this pie chart is that the largest single cost in this pie chart is not fuel, it's not pasture, it's not overhead, it's not miscellaneous costs, it's not the vet, it's hay and feed. Hay and feed makes up, in general, 40 to 60% of the total cow-calf budget. And that's a significant part. Just think about that, 50%. In order for us to be profitable when calf prices go down, we need to think about controlling cost in cow-calf production. And the largest single cost is hay and feed. And that's where we need to think about. We need to think about ways to reduce that, which is in general focusing on extending the grazing season. So that's scary, right? But what's even more scary is when we look at the total cost of production from this survey of 170 different farms. Over $1,000 to produce a calf in this survey, and that's the average, right? Everybody knows what an average is. That means there's costs above that and costs below that. An average is kind of like having 2 buckets of water, one scalding hot, one ice cold. You put a foot in each one. On average, you're comfortable, but it hurts like hell. So I went back and graphed out from this farm management group the cow-calf production costs over the last 25 years. And it was terrifying to me to look at those. When we look at the rate of incline in the cost of producing a calf over the 25 years, it's absolutely amazing. The point that I want to make with this graph is that if we're going to be profitable when calf prices come back down, we need to be below this curve. If we're not below that curve, I have serious doubts whether you're going to remain profitable after calf prices come back down. I got one more scary graph to show you, and this is hay production per beef cow. And this data is for Kentucky, but originally I saw this in a presentation from Daryl Peel, which is an Oklahoma extension ag economist from Oklahoma. And he did this same graph for Oklahoma. So I asked our statistics guys in Kentucky if they could make the same graph for me, and they did. And what I want you to notice is that starting in the mid-1970s, we've seen a consistent increase in the amount of hay produced per beef cow in Kentucky. That's scary to me because, in general, hay is negatively correlated with profitability in cow-calf systems. So the more hay that we feed, the less profitable we tend to be. And that's really important to remember when we're thinking about this big picture of maintaining profitability when calf prices go down. So Daryl went through and he tried to figure out or parse out why we were seeing this increase in hay use, and this was some of his ideas. Bigger cows eat more, and I think that's true. I think our cow size has increased. When I was in the Abington location for this conference, I said maybe our cows aren't 1,250 pounds anymore. Maybe they're 1,350 or 1,400 pounds. On the break, someone told me that he just sold some cull cows last week, and they weighed 1,800 pounds. That's a big cow. Probably too big. We probably need to think about moderating cow size, not making a small cow, but moderating that cow size. I think we've got a lot bigger cows than we know of in a lot of our herds in the transition area of the United States. Daryl thought that maybe increases in hay waste were occurring, and that's both storage and feeding losses could account for some of this increase in hay use, and then a longer total hay feeding period, which is counterintuitive, and I'm going to tell you why in a second here. So this is annual precipitation map, and what I want you to notice, if we look at the eastern United States, we are trending towards higher levels of rainfall. That means we are producing more forage in the eastern United States. And we need to really be thinking about that as we move forward. So we should have more grass, which would help us graze more days of the year. The other interesting graph, and this is from Matthew Dixon also at our Ag Weather Center, is the average frost-free days in Kentucky. And if we look over this period of 1971 to 2000 versus 1991 to 2020, we have increased on average in Kentucky about 10.5 frost-free days. That means our growing season is expanding. It's longer, yet we're feeding more hay. We need to really step back and think about how we're going to capture this increase in precipitation and this increase in frost-free days in our grazing systems to reduce the amount of hay that we're feeding in that grazing system. That's how we're going to stay profitable long term. Okay, that's the end of the first section, and if you're interested in watching the second section, go to the playlist and click on part 2.